history is entrenched in our bones.
So for me, spirituality stopped being buildings and theologies. It started becoming a lifestyle. Because many of the Christian people would rather be Christian on the day they're going to church. And when they come back from church, they take their jacket off and hang it in there, and then they do the secular thing. So spirituality has to do with the holistic lifestyle, holistic expression, holistic connection between the living human being, the ground under his feet, the breath that is in his nostrils, the water that is clogged up in his system. The question is, how do you relate with those three things? The soil that is on the ground plus the soil that you are. The water that is in the ground and the water that you are. The air that is out there and the water that is in your system. So for me, spirituality is actually the connecting of elements. We're ground to ground, water to water, air to air. And if a human being can find that association between what is outside of them and what is inside of them, there should be communication and the transmission. And birth, for me, has always become a mystery. As to how now do you connect that which is supernatural and abstract and send it through some waters of birth and come up with another human being again? Where is the transition? And to understand that, it's simple. Well, that's life. To understand that it's life, how do you eat food and translate food into energy? How do you translate food into thoughts? And then thoughts into material? So it has to stop with us trying to put many divisions. And worse still is when Christianity looks at indigenous expressions and we call them evil and satanic. So you find the African running away from his own practices because the European has come and deemed them as evil. Then you say, okay, let's follow you, the European. Take us to your place where it is clean. Then you find that they are drinking the blood of Jesus. They are eating the flesh of Jesus. They are still baptizing people in waters. They are telling people to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior by denouncing everything that is in the world, following this European white guy who is supposed to be the savior of mankind, the same guy who was brought by the missionaries. Then it all opens up the whole political thing. But to say the least is to be clear and say when you change people's culture, you are able to commercialize on their ignorance. So if you say to people, for example, you cannot stand up in church without putting on a jacket and a tie, and people accept that as truth, then the one who has preached that gospel must run and open up a shop quickly to sell the jackets and the ties, and he makes money out of it. So you don't eat that. That is evil. Then open a shop and people come and eat there. You don't visit those places, those shrines. They're full of demons. People run away from them. The white man puts a gate. Now you must pay 20, 50, 100 rand to come and see the same sites which are free. Is it not funny, therefore, that the African has been denied access to rivers, access to mountains? Walk around South Africa right now. You not find a mountain that does not have a fence around it. You not find a river that does not have a fence around it. And all trespassers would be prosecuted. So spirituality of the African cosmopolitan person is totally detached because he's no longer in touch with the basic elements that bring him into existence. So food now is shop food. It's no longer ground food. And health is now hospital. It's no longer, there's a time we lived where nature was our hospital. There's a time we lived where our environment was actually our hospital, and we lived together with. There was no disjoining between. So you're planting, it's a religious expression. You're eating, it's a religious expression. You're drinking water, it's a religious expression. You're marrying, it's a religious expression. You're burying, it's a religious expression. You're harvesting, it's a religious expression. You're killing a cow, it's a religious expression. You're sleeping, it's a religious expression. Hence in my tribe, in the Shona tribe, when you wake up in the morning, they say, Zehope, Zehope. Zehope means those coming from sleep. Did you hear any whispers from the land of those that are on the other side where you were in the midst of the night? So therefore life you're expressing in the conscious world is a constant harvesting of the subconscious and coming back to the conscious. And therefore when you are physically conscious, you're spiritually unconscious. And when you become physically unconscious, you're spiritually conscious. So life is a movement between two consciousness, physicality and spirituality, and to be able to relate and join those two. And I think religion, particularly Christianity, Islam, they play in that space where they want you to stay as far apart from yourself as possible. So for me, that connection, African does not need to be taught religion. He is intrinsically religious. The genius, let me call it the genius, the wicked genius of colonialism, to be able to rewrite people's software through an education system that constantly praises the other and demonizes the other. So this happens not only at church, this happens in schools, this happens at work. It becomes a continuous brainwashing of the African child. And that by the time they're starting your Cartoon Network, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Tom and Harry, Dick and Harry, whatever you call it, and sooner or later you're with Barbies and dolls. Before you notice it, you're with Cinderellas. So the whole picture of what is beauty, what is religion, what is witchcraft, what is magic, what is education, what is wealth, what is class. The whole software has been tampered with greatly, and none amongst us, even the most conscious amongst us, can claim that the thought has been able to win away all the elements of colonization. Because somewhere this demon just has a way of showing its ugly head again. When you think you're over this thing, you are stuck again on the other side. The other day I'm looking around and I'm on cosmetics. We may want to buy all these expensive cosmetic products which are over the moon. You walk around KwaZulu-Natal and you find these ladies with this mud on their face to protect themselves from the sun. And I look at the cosmetic companies and I'm saying, how evil can you be to bring a lotion and a sunscreen from Europe, which has not been thoroughly tested on the black people, and yet you find black people who have been working in the sun and they actually have this substance. Now, if our educated friends who are chemists and the pharmaceutical group were intelligent enough, you could go to KwaZulu-Natal and find that mud, take it to the laboratory, study it, come up with an indigenous product that is organic, that is friendly, and. So for me, the socialization becomes the whole issue. And again, I come hard on the Christian space. That church is actually an institution, a policing institution that manages African spirituality. Because at church, you are to then taught what you must do, what you cannot do. And every week you must be there to be pumped with more information of what you can do, what you cannot do, what you cannot do. And before we notice it, our churches have become centers of European culture, from music to expression, to worship, to books, to what, to lifestyle. It has become actually a place which further emphasizes the goodness of colonialism and how you cannot make it if you walk up to a boardroom like this. You can't. Who will accept you looking like that? And worse still is because our Christian brothers are now the one running the corporate. And once they're running the corporate, they want to make sure that they carry their religion with them, they carry their Jesus with them, they carry the principles of colonialism with them. So immediately they see someone who is now walking out of line with what everybody else is doing, they cut contracts. I've been there. We literally, people no longer want to do business with you because apparently what you're now teaching and what you now believe in is no longer the same thing with Jesus has taught you. Do we have the right to be Africans without necessarily having to refer back to the same colonial rules that are managing us? This is where my head goes ballistic. Because how can it be that Africa is being ruled by the Roman Dutch law? Are we Romans? Are we Dutch? Okay, maybe we are. Can you give us passports, please? So that we can function in Rome and in Dutchland. All our educated professors, all our legal minds put together in the whole country of South Africa cannot sit in one committee and decide to write an indigenous governance system, a law of which will, and immediately you touch the law, you've actually put your hand on the pulse, the bloodline of colonialism. It was economics, politics, education, culture, everything is hinged on the laws of the land. So you have a church that manages the spirituality, forcing us to accept the constitution, and then the police that enforces and make sure that we all comply. Those who refuse to comply, then there's jail, where we remove you from association, and etc. We'd rather be buying meat that has been prayed for in halal to be killed. It's good for eating. You cannot kill your own meat in your own house because SPCA will be standing in the door telling you can't do that, you cannot do this, you can't do that, you cannot live there. So you would find that the socialization of our children and our community is all entrenched in the colonial project. And to break away from that project means a revolution. Not only a revolution as of fighting, but literally changing the software of the nation. And until we are confident enough to understand the structures of colonialism, I'll make them in 4 for you so that you can follow me carefully. First one is build businesses. And I'll give you as a project of the West. So that if you have to change it as Africa, you need to know the DNA of colonialism. So then say we break it here. Firstly, establish businesses. How do you establish businesses? By killing all indigenous businesses and make sure that all their economy feeds into this. That's why colonialism starts by collecting people's cattle, removing them from their homelands, and etc., and centralize them in a certain place so that they have no base at which they can have an economic base. So colonialism closes African businesses, totally takes away land and everything else, so that money becomes centralized. And by the way, banking for another day, biggest hoax in the world, that you can take away gold from me and photocopy papers, and then give me papers and say, now you have money. You can take away land from me and give me a bag full of value. Must be traded with value. And you cannot take away any immovable asset and give me a movable asset and say we've made a transaction. That's theft. You can't do it. Land cannot be sold. Whoever is selling land is a thief. For I want a receipt of the first transaction to the one who is selling that land. And I'll tell you that my umbilical cord is my title deed to the land at which I'm born in. So create businesses, number one. And once you create businesses and you have the money, we are now in state capture issues by the politicians. All politicians have a price tag on them. They can be bought. And a group of parliamentarians who are sitting in parliament, in English, a group of parliamentarians are monkeys. That's English. So the business people can buy a group of monkeys that can now make noise in parliament. Section 14C, point of correction. I don't recognize the comrade. We fight amongst ourselves. But the people who really are in control of the politicians are the business community. And immediately you have politicians in place, you can now assign them to put the legislation and judicial system in place. So politicians appoint the judicial system to protect the businesses. And the 4th level is propaganda, media. Tell the people what you want and have access to their minds. Direct them where you want, how you want them to think. That's where entertainment is. It's easy to fill up a stadium with 60,000 people who are watching the skin of a dead ox, watching 22 men who badly need rest, and the 60,000 people who badly need exercise. Think that they are actually involved in their own life. So if we are to break the system, firstly we need to understand how to build African businesses. Immediately with African businesses that are viable. I wish, like in South Africa, if Mzate could put on one side, Ramaphosa put on one side, Mzikumalo put on one side, and all these millionaires, if I could sit them in one room and ask them, with all the billions that you have, can you show me one school that you have built? Can you not tell me, can we not take your money, guys, and let's buy this system entirely? And when we buy the whole political machinery together, can we not institute an indigenous thinking system together? Immediately the indigenous thinking system, then you can put laws that manage that. And ultimately, you can own the media. And media, even education, is on media. It's communication, it's education. So until we understand how colonialism is structured, we will spend lots of time fighting at point 2. And point 2 is a servant of number 1. And this one is managing the whole system. So ultimately, we are running in circle against a dog chasing its tail. In as many politicians you can change, you can never change the narrative because it is purely being managed by those who have money. So again, I say poor people have no choices. Poor people have no choices. Religion, it is a business to those who are making money out of it. It is useful to those who are in political power. It is nonsense to those that are smart and intelligent, but it is a waste of time to those that are spiritual. Because ultimately, it is giving people access and allowing them the right to be. The law, this looks like an insurmountable task because of the amount of volumes that are threatening. When you walk up into your legal system and you begin to say, let's rewrite it, people think it's scary. Where do you start? But for me, law can be broken into three simple principles. The law of self, the law of the family, and the law of the community. And the law simply says, how do you preserve the individual? What is the regulations you must run on yourself? You're not allowed to kill yourself. You must develop yourself so that we can benefit the best out of you. We need rules and laws on how a person can become self-sustainable and become a preservative to themselves. Number two, when a person is well educated and taught, then this person is safe to build a house and build a family. And if each individual in this family has gone through the initial ukuzazi, ukututor, ukuziqhumanisa with himself, by the time they're connecting with other people, it becomes a union of spiritually connected people. This family can now interact with the community. So for me, if you can just break down, throw away all the law books and say, what is the law of self? What is the law of the family? What is the law of the community? You would find that land and all legal systems would collapse into a simple, and this is what we can teach our children. Look after you, look after family, look after community. Education must speak to that. Economics must speak to that. Even politics must speak to that. Right now I can ask you, with all these huge political parties that they have, what is the agenda on the individual? You'll be shocked. Question two, what is the agenda on the family? The very few families that are remaining with the amount of principles that they're now filtering into the space, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked to discover that the greatest entertainment right now of politicians is how do we decentralize, how do we break families apart, and how can you be teaching young kids at the age of 9, 10 issues of sex? For example, when China is teaching its children technology. So let's meet you 25 years later. You were taught sex education at 9. I was taught technology at 9. Who will be working for? What's your career exactly? What people are we breeding into this, even if we are supposed to idolize and speak nicely and fondly about the global village? The question is simple. When we get to the global village, what is the role of the African in that global village? I can tell you now, with the quality of education we have, we are entering the global village as sex slaves. We are entering that village as servants. We are entering that village as the masses. What do we do with them? We will never become key players, because ultimately the goal of the modern European system that we have has nothing to do with empowering the African. I have a secret I want to share with you. The secret is, if you are supposed to supply him with anything, the less information and education you have about yourself and the product, the more inferior the product I give you. So by improving you and allowing you to be your best, I'm able to harvest the best out of you. But as long as our education system is focused towards the financial funders, the shareholders. You look at Marikana, declaring profits prior, 240 million, 500 million. We reached our target. What's the target? 600 million. La la la. The workers at the bottom are only screaming for a lousy 6-7 million. But the shareholders will not buy it. You'd rather. But how about invest in the people? Are you telling me that the gap between the 6-7 million with the 280-600 million budget, it will make a difference? The whole mine must come to stand still because people cannot be paid. and sorry to say this on public forum, though it is dangerous for me to say it, that one of our own brothers, who is an owner of the mine, would rather be seen in the Kruger National Park buying a buffalo for 19 million. But he's a shareholder, where his own people. Now, I don't want to question his actions, but I want to ask the quality of mind, of leadership that we have, and where and what they consider to be critical investments, even in the shadow of the poverty of his own people. It's not a problem to take your 4x4 and drive past shacks and etc. to go into a mine where you are a shareholder of billions. And you would actually look for a 4x4 because you don't want to fix the potholes on the same road where your people are living. So for the quality of thinking, and I must say sadly that our education system has not produced anything better than itself. So let's not even cry too much. Maybe it's the quality that you have. I want to say something. What if we can teach people humanity? Will we not have better businesses? What if we can give people a first-class education? Will we not get a first-class product coming back to us? So we cry about poor service delivery. We cry about crime. We cry about theft. Can I ask you the truth? Have we taught our children morality? From 0, 15, 20, now they're 65. With big tummies, sitting in offices, signing checks, and you want them to have a reference of a moral compass. No, they're incented in penthouses with 6 girls on every side, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 Moet bottles that are flying on the tables, slapping up each other's cheeks with 10,000 pound money on their faces, and flying girlfriends to Dubai for weekends. Because, or when they were growing up, that's what they were saying. We want a highly moral society. But every morning you wake up on TV and you watch it, and all we're pumping in is crime and violence. And we hope that we will create miraculously out of this mesh. We're going to come up with good citizens, responsible citizens. Of course, if you misbehave, there's jail waiting for you. So we'll quickly take you and dump you there. But is that a solution? So if we can just backtrack this whole thing and come back, you may find that the law of the individual, who are you first, then who is the person that is sitting next to you? And how do we as a unit interact with the community that is around us? There is no way we can be complaining about corruption in government if we're going to talk about corruption in the home. So I ask you a question again. Why would you have a parliament in Cape Town and the wife is working in Pretoria and the husband must fly to Cape Town and then come back home every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks? Why would you have a policy in government? Minister so-and-so, minister so-and-so. Minister must now take his entourage, going to Paris, and wives are left behind. When are we going to have a picture in the government offices where it's Mr. Ramaphosa and Mrs. Ramaphosa? As state images that begin to create a clear picture to the young people who are entering all public offices. That is the ideal. That is the model that we must be looking for. Even if we all don't make it to be husbands and wives and have homes, but at least the picture is clear. Don't you think that there might be a migration of a certain mindset? But no, our buildings are full of macho alpha males. President, vice president, and once in a while you see a woman there as a minister of what, but all of them are in this macho people. There's no picture of family. And yet we hope that saying nothing about it, teaching nothing about it, legislating nothing about it, will heal us results. Right now I can walk up to the bank and ask for 1.5 million and throw away my Mercedes Benz the other day and S500 that was here. You get the 1.5 million, but you buy a car and you must pay for your car within 5 years. Walk to the same bank and say you want 1.5 million for a business. You will be shocked. You will come back crawling 6 months later, still being told to fill in papers. So what is it? What are you saying? That displaying a lifestyle of affluency is much better than owning the substance. So we create a nation where things have become more important than people. And when everybody grows up and they want things, then there's a problem. And my commentary on that is When people have a high appetite of things, but a poor ethic of work, they become criminals. We have created society that is things-oriented, not people-oriented. And until we convert that sentence into our education, into our societal training of bringing up another generation, we may just find that we end up actually as ants trying to eat away this elephant. And none of us has ever gone to the bush trying to hunt. We're not taught how to hunt. Hence, even when you finish graduation, the best thing that you've walked away with as a student is how to write a good CV. How to write a good CV, not how to own the business. Why would we deem an old lady sitting at a farm in Mtua? She's got her 8 cattle, her 4 sheep, 6 goats, and a couple of chickens in the field. And then you write in your government gazettes and put as a statistics of the unemployed. What makes you think that employment only talks of you reporting for duty to me? And so those people, we call them indigent, the unemployed, the this, the this. And the other time when I was working for public works, I even had a complicated word, the unbankable.
Because we don't pay tax.
To who? So employment for me is a foreign thing. Livelihood to me would be a much better word. How do we create a nation that can feed itself? And I'm actually excited, but though I'm sad, but excited with this coronavirus that is coming. And interesting to note that the tissue paper, the sanitation, the masks that we are looking for are coming from the person who has been hardest hit, China. Now that China is slowed down, it's for the first time that as Africans, we need to start looking at how do we deal with these problems. Because all along, the solution will be, what do we do? From China, containers and ships are parked, factories are closed, because business. Now, instead of us looking at this and panicking, maybe it's a wake-up call to say, no, China is not buying our coal. So can we just put it back into ESCOM and switch on our electricity? Because Richard Bay right now is full of the quotas of coal. We must go to China. But we don't have electricity at home. So now that maybe China is slowed down, is it not time that we can start retrospecting and saying, are we really saying we're unemployed? Maybe the real word we must be using is how do we activate our community into viability? Like a simple solution where converting our homes into gardens, for example. Sounds very primitive, but I plant tomatoes, you plant onions, the other one has got oranges, the other one, but imagine a community, like see how much grass is around my house. If I would convert half of this at the back and make it into a garden, then every Sunday, the residents of Lakefield, with a small little market there, we all harvest what we have in our gardens. I bring me a packet of potatoes, you bring me a packet of tomatoes, you bring me a packet of this, you bring me some vegetables, and we share the excess of that, we put it onto the grid, and it becomes a market. So the money is not an issue. You can actually get rid of money if people can look after themselves. The only thing we need in effect is salt. With the rest of things, we can actually make them amongst ourselves. And for me, a nation that cannot feed itself, no matter how politically strong they are, they still remain the slaves of the ones that are supplying the food. I'd rather have us have a conversation with what I call indigenous healing methods. And before we can get ourselves intoxicated with medicine as being a Western science, we may want to walk a bit backwards and say, is medicine not alchemy? Is medicine not African? And actually the whole myth around medicine is medicine not herbs. Maybe let's even simplify it. Every day when you stand in your kitchen, are you not in a pharmaceutical ward? Are you not in a pharmacy? Because cooking has to do with mixing herbs so that people can eat. So vegetables, beetroots, garlics, Too much. And of course, the danger we have again with colonialization is that we've been given a prescribed diet that is high on starch. And if you look at the effects and side effects of too much starch in a diet, all obesities and sicknesses in the whole human body collapses, because starch fills the tummy but does not fill the muscles. Starch is for slaves. Starch is just for energy. It's just for you to wake up and go and work and etc. But life is not only about working. Life is about spirituality and totality. So you may find that even what you might want to term as food right now is not food. People want to argue. Africans, our diet has never been too much of a meat diet. Honestly, meat was eaten on occasions, on functions, on celebrations, and etc. The question is, because if you were killing a cow every week, tell me how would you survive? So only on funerals, for example, and weddings, and etc. And when the father is rich, then you can kill a cow, but you cannot just wake up in the morning and say, the question is, so even the high protein diet, which you are now having, is a problem. Now go and Google again and find the side effects of a high protein, high starch. You will find health on the charts of health, that the greens and the slightly purple and the slightly pinkish, and that's where the correct health is. When you get to the red zone of the bloods and etc., and the starchy area, most of the disease that we have is coming from there. So in one sentence, the pharmaceutical companies are not in the health of the Africans. They are in the business of sickness. They are not here to make sure that we are healthy. They are here to make sure that we are sick. Because sickness to them is business. So how can you trust a person who looks at you in the midst of your sickness and then says, welcome aboard? But they're catching up on that. So again, if I don't want to sound too political, you want to do another good research and find out the criminal activities that are happening in the pharmaceutical industry as they manipulate the political system. And the one who has knowledge of that information, the one who has knowledge between the two elements, between the element of the human body and the elements that are in the ground, that's where now this whole concept of Bungomo comes in, which for me basically it is a healing session. But if I can just throw you off the rail, what if we can bring up one generation of children that are not vaccinated? What if we can have one generation of children that are not fed on junk foods and plastic milk? What if we can just say, because our parents are not vaccinated, but they live to 120, 115 years. So if we measured civilization on the basics of immortality rate, you miss me. If we measured civilization on the basis of immortality and longevity of life, then why are we dying at 30 now? Why are 22-year-old girls being diagnosed with cancer and on chemotherapy? If we become better, the answer is again no. The one with knowledge, therefore, on the elements of healing, that's where you begin to have the concept of ubungo. And again, I say that that is a spiritual gift of the highest order. And that spiritual gift, it is transmitted from one generation to another generation. As much as music is in your blood, as much as knowledge and wisdom can be in your blood, as much as complexion is in your blood, we all come with a certain DNA that is trapped in us. When that DNA is enhanced, then it makes you excel. You go to Kenya, for example, the best runners of the world are in there. Why? Go and find out what is in their genes. What do they eat? What history do they have? You may just find that the competitiveness you find at the extreme end here has been muted over a generation. Hence, I always say our forefathers, they sleep in the ground, but they are buried in our bones, they're buried in our blood, they're buried in our veins. And that which you may have forgotten, maybe your blood remembers.